Hello, welcome to the final session in the Good Projects Professional Development Series. You've made it to the last workshop in this series. Today's topic and our final topic is about doing good work. So we're going to look at where we've been so far with the set of ideas we've explored through this professional development sequence. And then we're going to think about how we can use those ideas in practice to think about some real world examples and how we decide where to devote our energy when doing good work. So where have we been? This slide gives you a sense of the many different topics that we've explored through this professional development sequence. We started with an overview of good work and how we define it through the 3 E's here. So excellence, ethics, and engagement are the 3 E's of good work. And through the initial sessions, we explored those topics. So we looked at, for example, different ethical paradigms, paradigms like deontological thinking, utilitarianism, how those might influence our view of ethical decision making. We also looked at values second after we had explored the 3 E's. We thought about how values might influence our views of good work even beyond those 3 lenses. And then we looked at responsibility. So we thought about the rings of responsibility framework and how competing responsibilities might cause us to feel ethical dilemmas and what to do about that. We then looked at mentors and role models, the people who might help us or shape us in doing our work. We thought about reflection. So we thought about metacognition and how that shows up in a working environment and how we can become more metacognitive in our habits. We thought about purpose and mission together. So what kind of goals do we have, or what kind of sense of an overall purpose is driving us in our work? And then relatedly looked at alignment and misalignment. So when people have different views of work or different sets of goals, how does that show up as a case of misalignment? When people are united, how does that alignment influence our work? And then finally, we looked at dilemma discussions. So when facing dilemmas, what are they? And then how can we have discussions about them with other people and in learning environments? All of this discussion, although we've pulled in some real world examples, has been quite conceptual. So today we're going to try to sum it up by looking at some real world examples and practices that can help us think about how these different concepts and ideas show up in action in our daily life, and then also how we can direct our time to do good work in different ways in the world. So as I said, let's all put it all together using some real world examples. So you can choose one of the following links for this activity, or you can contribute an example from your own life or current events. So the 3 examples that I've pulled here for you are a news story about a cafe for people with disabilities, and the link is right below that square. A forest conservation effort in India about someone who was championing forest conservation against a mining company. Again, the link there. And women and land ownership. So a story about this nonprofit that was working with women in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in order to further land ownership for those women and hopefully have an effect on their personal lives and relationships. Again, the link is there for you to access that story, or you can choose your own that you think is an example of good work. And really the goal of this exercise is to see what connections do you find in these stories or in your own example from the PD sequence that we've been through. So using the ideas that we've covered through this entire set of workshops, what connections do you see to these real life examples? And I'll pause the video here or just pause for a moment so you can pause and take a moment to either read the story, think of something from your own life, and jot down some thoughts. Or again, if you're with others, you can discuss once you have thought about it a little bit on your own independently. So jot down those connections you see and then come back when you're ready. Great, so hope that you had some time to think about that, maybe consider what this looks like with others, and to begin to really make the connections between everyday events and what we've talked about together about good work, values, responsibility, and more. So as these examples make clear, there are many different ways to do good work in the world. Maybe these examples that I pulled out have to do with things like entrepreneurship, advocacy, or empowerment and a direct benefit to certain stakeholders. But there are also many other things that you can do to do good work in the world. So there are a multitude of possible actions that could support someone in doing good work as we think about the underlying tactics or frames or ways of taking action that could support people in doing work that's excellent, ethical, and engaging beyond even our normal working environment. When we talked about doing good work most often through this series, you can do good work through any of these types of actions that are on the slide. So volunteering, donating, boycotting, protesting, signing a petition, sharing a social media post, making a lifestyle choice, or even just staying informed. All of these are different actions that you can take in order to hopefully support yourself in doing good work in a way that supports social good and is even beyond just our regular work in most cases. So I thought this would be a helpful set of concepts or a helpful set of paradigms to share at this point about how different social actions can look in the world. And this comes from research that my colleague Shelby Clark and I did of the United World Colleges movement of schools. We were looking at how they describe different social impact activities that they were taking part in as students and as alums. And we saw that a lot of the actions fell into one of these four categories. So first is ripples into reforms. So the idea that you can have a cascade effect on other people through networks. Maybe you're spreading the word on social media. Maybe you feel like through your personal interactions with others, you're able to spread, whether that's a certain value, a certain message about a social issue, that hopefully then will spread to others through network effects. So this idea that you can have a cascade on other people being one way to make an impact in the world. Second is change through charity. So we wrote effective altruism there. A lot of people talked about giving and giving resources, money, time, that being charitable giving, but also the idea that you can choose how to target your giving, whether that giving again is monetary or based on your personal investment of time or resources that you might have available to you, targeting that in a way that's going to make maximum impact. So again, this is connected to the effective altruism movement, which you can read a little more about if you're curious. Third is the idea that you can craft a new culture. So through social entrepreneurship, maybe starting a new nonprofit organization or a business of some sort, you can create innovations that are going to really upend how things are done, maybe create a new way of doing things. And then fourth is rooting for a reset. So being a little more systemic in our thinking, maybe not just volunteering for a charity, but really figuring out, why does this charity need to exist? What are the social conditions that are leading to a situation in which I have to, give money to a particular charity to do with hunger? Let's question, why does hunger exist in this particular context, and what can we do to hopefully overcome it? So I've also pasted in the link here at the bottom of the slide for you to be able to check out the blog post where we've explained these paradigms. And there's also a quiz there that you can take if you're curious, where you could be sorted into one of these four paradigms based on different impact actions that you might choose as most impactful. So again, this is the idea that there are these different paradigms of ways of making a difference, ways of doing good work, and you can help students or your own colleagues in thinking about different actions you might be taking. Where do you tend to fall in this particular paradigm? But deciding which pathway amongst all of these can be challenging. So you could think, do I want to be giving money in this situation? Do I want to be maybe trying to have a cascade effect? What actual action do I want to take? Or what kind of work do I even want to be doing? When you think about good work, sometimes for students, the questions can be overwhelming. Trying to think about good work as a student, what do I really want to be doing for this particular project that's supposed to have some kind of impact on other people? Or what do I think I want to do for my future career? Or for all of us adults who are watching, what do we think we are really having an impact through in our work, or in what ways are we having an impact? How can we have a greater impact? How can we do better good work? So design thinking is one way that you can do this. And we would encourage people to use the design thinking framework to really be thinking about how you can make a real world impact and do good work. So design thinking is something that is kind of a term, but under that umbrella, there are several different ways that have been developed to be considering what design thinking is and what its exact steps are. but really there are parallels, whatever terms are used. So I'm going to play this video, which I hope you can hear, and just give you a taste of what design thinking really can look like.
Design thinking is a flexible framework for getting the most out of the creative process. It is used in the arts, in engineering, in the corporate world, and in social and civic spaces. You can use it in every subject with every age group. It works when creating digital content or when building things with duct tape and cardboard. Although there are many models for design thinking, we have developed the student-friendly launch cycle. Here's how it works. In the first phase, students look, listen, and learn. The goal here is awareness. It might be a sense of wonder at a process, or an awareness of a problem, or a sense of empathy toward a group. Sparked by curiosity, students move to the second phase, where they ask tons of questions. This leads to understanding the process or problem through an authentic research experience. They might conduct interviews or needs assessments, research articles, watch videos, or analyze data. Students apply the newly acquired knowledge to potential solutions. In this phase, they navigate ideas. Here, they not only brainstorm, but they also analyze ideas, combine ideas, and generate a concept for what they will create. In the next phase, they create a prototype. It might be a digital work or a tangible product, a work of art, or something they engineer. It might even be an action or an event or a system. Next, they begin to highlight what's working and fix what's failing. The goal here is to view this revision process as an experiment full of iterations, where every mistake takes them closer and closer to success. Then, when it's done, it's ready to launch. In the launch phase, they send it to an authentic audience. They send their work to the world. And ultimately, that leads back to a place where they can look, listen, and learn.
Okay, so I hope that video was informative. This is another way to think about the steps of design thinking. So with a little bit of a set of different words, but basically the same idea. So first, empathizing, maybe that's trying to conduct interviews, uncovering emotions, really getting to know what audience you're trying to work with and impact. Second, define. So really coming down to what is the problem space that we're trying to understand or address. Third, ideate. So creating a whole set of ideas. And the idea here is not to really be judging ideas as they come, but to create a whole set of ideas and questions that you can build upon in order to then prototype. So that fourth step, creating something that you can then, in the fifth step, test out, finally assess, and then hopefully circle back and keep going through this cycle. So again, this set of design thinking ideas is one that you can use and learn more about in order to figure out with your students when they're doing some type of project, or when you're thinking about as a class, what kinds of ideas do we have about the work that we'd like to do now and in the future. This can help you really narrow in some ways on what kinds of problems or issues you'd like to be working with. So some ideas for pedagogy is to use these paradigms of social impact and design thinking in conjunction with all the ideas we've talked about through this professional development sequence about good work to help students not only tackle real problems and come up with ways to address dilemmas. You know, we've talked a lot about dilemmas through this professional development series, and often those have been hypothetical stories, although they've been based on real world cases, but hypothetical for students as they're reading them. Now is the time when you can actually take it and try to address real problems that students might be facing or experiencing or see others experiencing in society and in the real world. Ideating and iterating. So again, this is not a one-step process where you come up with one idea and then take it forward and don't have the opportunity to go back. There's room for experimentation here, and this can all help support skills, hopefully, like creativity, resilience, and much more that you might be focusing on with your students already. We wanted to ask at the end just this question as well, though. What else do you think your students need to do good work and make a difference in the world? We would love to hear some ideas from you about that. There might be certain things that we're missing or that should be added to this professional development series in order to make it more powerful and more relevant to all of the educators out there. So we'd love to hear from you. What else do you think you and your students need to do good work in the world today? Thank you so much for joining us for this sequence of professional development. We hope that you've enjoyed it and that you might come back and keep following along with the Good Project for more ideas. Feel free to get in touch with us at any time, and thank you so much again.